Hello, everybody. My name is Calvin. I wanted to do a little video just breaking down my 50 favorite albums of all time. I apologize for the video quality and probably the sound quality. I'm recording this on a very old MacBook Air webcam with a wired Rock Band microphone. It's what I have. It's what I'm going to use. I've been wanting to make a video like this for a while, but this is honestly not something I would really do, putting myself out like this. So I guess this is kind of exposure therapy in a way. So this video is going to have a lot of hot takes. I'm not saying that these 50 albums are the best albums of all time. I'm saying that they are my favorite albums of all time. A lot of them are some of my most played albums of all time. And I recognize that there's a difference between those two lists. I'm not going to try to make a list of the 50 best albums of all time, because ultimately, you know, what do I know about anything besides what I enjoy? So, with that said, I'm going to try not to make this video 3 hours long, but I do want to give each album the flowers that I feel that it deserves. So starting off at number 50, I'm sorry if I keep looking off to the side. I have the list written down, and I have some notes I've written down about some of the albums, as you can see. Starting off at number 50, A Momentary Lapse of Reason by Pink Floyd. 1987, 10 songs, a nice 50 minutes. I know that a lot of people don't consider this to even be in the upper echelon of Pink Floyd albums. So this is, starting off with one of the hot takes I warned you about. I love this album a lot. I believe it's one of my favorite prog rock albums, probably of all time. Specifically, Learning to Fly, I think, is just one of the greatest songs ever made. I really love everything about the album, sort of the ethereal nature of the sound with, some of the more, I don't want to say bitter, but like more grounded songwriting. Dogs of War is really good also. Sorrow is really good also. I know that this album came out at a point in the band's career when Roger Waters's hubris was kind of tearing the band out from the inside. And I know that for that reason, a lot of people don't really consider it to be on the same level as a lot of their other, more notable, more acclaimed albums. But to me, this album is always going to have a really soft spot in my heart. I love the cover too, very cool. And also the, whatever it was, the 40th anniversary cover, where they kind of changed it a little bit but kept it the same. That was really cool. All right, number 49. I hope I say this right because I've never actually heard the real pronunciation, but Tiger Sap by Simon, Szymon. This is a very, I think, underrated album. It's from 2015. I'm so bad with genres. Probably it's a mix of like indie pop, like electro pop maybe. It's only 12 songs, about a nice 40 minutes. I found this album because I don't remember how I found the individual song, but there's a song in the album called Katyusha, Katyusha. There was a long period of time, several years, where I could only fall asleep to that song. And actually, just a little sidebar, there's been a couple periods of time like that. There was a long period of time where I could only fall asleep to the song Like a Kennedy by Joywave, which I do believe is also one of the greatest songs ever. All right, anyway. There's a few really, really more like commercially accessible songs on this, but top to bottom, the production is beautiful. It's very warm, but it's got a lot of really like melancholy uh, lyrics. It was released posthumously, just a few years after Simon's death at age 23, which is so surreal, thinking about the fact that I'm now older than this guy, that I, obviously never knew, but whose music helped me so much at a younger age. It's such a weird thing to think about, but it's such a beautiful album, very underrated. He's, respect to the people that ultimately helped. I'm not even sure who it is, but helped master it, finish it, put it out after his death. They did such a wonderful job completing his vision. And yeah, that's all I can really say about it. R.I.P. He was a very talented musician. I'm not even sure how he died, to be honest, but however it was, gone too soon. All right, number 48. Maybe a controversial one. Honeymoon by Lana Del Rey, another one from 2015. I believe one of her longer albums clocks in at just about over an hour. It's really hard. There's going to be a lot of Lana albums on this list, by the way. At least 3, I believe. Maybe more. It's really hard to describe a quintessential Lana Del Rey album because it feels like every album she has is a quintessential Lana Del Rey album, which I guess is really just more of a credit to her ability as a songwriter. But obviously, Art Deco is a great single. High by the Beach is a great single. A lot of other underrated ones, The Blackest Day, Salvatore. It's really like a dreamy. It's almost like an album about like escapism, or like the idea of like trying to escape through like some escapade or journey or adventure. It's really beautiful, super like gorgeous. I hate to keep saying ethereal, but ethereal, dreamy production. It's Lana. She did her thing. She always does her thing. She's amazing. All right, number 47. Another, I think, very underrated album, Miracle in Transit by the DJ Naked Flames. Now, I know there's a lot of drama with this album, not the album, but with the artist, leading to the album, and I think most of his music being taken off of streaming services. It is still available, I believe, on YouTube, and I was lucky enough to have got the vinyl before everything went down, so I still have my ways of listening to it. One of the most beautiful house albums I think I've ever heard. The production is so summery and springy and creative and inventive. It's pretty much impossible to pick a favorite on that. There's a song on there called Pan Matsuri that's really good. There's, I think, Carrot Car might be the most popular one, at least on Spotify. It was on Spotify before it got taken off. But, man, it's so good. It's so springy and so fun. And there's so many layers to it. You listen to it, especially with some big, good headphones, and there's just so many layers all around you. Very cool cover art as well. Only 7 songs, but it's still, I think, about 50 minutes. And, man, I like a good longer song. Obviously, that's not really that long, but I'm not going to do the math. But, yeah, super underrated. Highly recommend going on YouTube, checking it out if you get a chance. All right, number 46, Sirens of the Sea by Ocean Lab. Okay, I love trance music. It's one of my all-time favorite music genres. I know a lot of people are kind of not that impressed with it because, it's all these, 10-minute songs or whatever. A lot of it seems repetitive. That's the point. It puts you in a trance. That's why it's called that. Ocean Lab is a sort of a super group almost. I don't know if you could call it that. It's Above and Beyond, which is 3 guys, a very famous trance trio, Above and Beyond, and the vocal talents of Justine. I've never been able to say her last name, Suissa, Suissa, who has done, besides from this, feature work on so many legendary trance songs and other electronic songs. She has such a great voice, and I mean, this album is almost, besides anything else, just a great vocal showcase for her talents. Obviously, above and beyond, great producers. The whole album is kind of got a nautical sea theme, like very I don't know, very kind of quiet and like adventurous. It's very like ambient. It's like a mix of like ambient and vocal trance. It's really, again, most of it's really hard to pick favorites, but If I Could Fly is probably the one I've gone back to the most on that. It's just such a beautiful, like I said, a beautiful showcase of Justine's vocal range. And yeah, they really couldn't have picked a better vocalist to partner with for, an entire side project. She just did such an amazing job with that. All right, number 45. The Black Parade by My Chemical Romance. This is a little bit of a nostalgia pick for me, although I know people do love this album, so it's not like this one's really a hot take, but obviously a genre-defining album for pop punk, for that sort of like scene kid vibe, 14 songs, comes in just about 50 minutes. Obviously the title track, The Black Parade, is... Welcome to the Black Parade, is one of like the most famous pop punk songs ever. So iconic. Teenagers is another really good one on there. Cancer, obviously very emotional, but so beautifully written. This was really, the peak, and this is where some people might disagree, but I would say this is the peak of MCR's, artistdom. Obviously, they have so many great albums. Three Cheers. And Danger Days are up there for me, Danger Days especially, but man, this album is just so good. It's almost like it's so... Usually when you say things are camp, there's like an implied... it's almost like an implied diss, like when you say something is camp, that it's bad, but it's camp, so it's good. This is different. This is camp, and it's also that good. It's kind of just one of those albums that never really gets old. All right, number 44. Maybe a hot take here. Planet Her by Doja Cat. I have a rocky relationship with Doja Cat. I like some of the things she's done very, very much, and I dislike some of the things she's done. This album in particular, it's her signature pop rap style, but I feel like she really nailed everything about this. All the features are amazing. All the production, especially a lot of the ones produced by Y2K, who's an amazing producer. Such a great job. My favorite, undisputably, Options, featuring JID. JID. I believe it's one of JID's best features ever. Man, is it catchy. There's so many catchy songs on this album. I mean, obviously, Kiss Me More was like a huge chart-topping single. Get Into It charted, I believe. It's just so catchy. It's so fun. It's so, like... quintessentially pop, but it's also got Doja's, signature hip-hop twist on it. So, very great album, very great features, great production, everything about it. I love it. All right, number 43, one of the most iconic ever, Tapestry by Carole King. Carole King, obviously super underrated as a singer. Well, not as a singer. As a songwriter, she wrote so many huge songs, and obviously doesn't really get the credit she deserves for that. But 1971, Tapestry came out. It was her second album, I believe. The first one didn't really do that well. This song came out. I Feel the Earth Move was a huge single, and even bigger than that, It's Too Late. Giant single. In my opinion, one of the greatest songs ever made. It's really hard to pick a favorite. I mean, every song on this album is amazing. She's such a brilliant songwriter and has the, vocal talent to match. I really feel like she doesn't get her flowers as, a huge proponent of the music scene for, whenever it was 50 years ago to even to now. In many senses, her impact is still being felt. Man, she was good. Yeah. Super underrated. Tapestry. Check it out. Number 42. So Sad, So Sexy by Leaky Lee. This is a perfect nighttime album. Super short, super sweet. 10 songs. I think it's about 35 minutes, which for me is really the sweet spot for an album runtime, between like 34 and 37 minutes. Boy, I love a 37-minute album. It's just like the perfect amount of time. Although, I like a longer album too. But anyway, this one is really hard to pick a favorite. Obviously, the title track is amazing. There's Jaguars in the Air is amazing. It's really, and there's only a few features, maybe just one, I think, Amine actually. But the whole vibe of the album, the aesthetic is so perfectly crafted. It's just a perfect kind of melancholy late night album. And she is such an underrated singer as well. That people do not really talk about that much, but boy, she is good. All right, number 41. Nurture by Porter Robinson, 2021. Bit of a longer one. I think it's just under an hour long. This album, I'm not the first person to applaud this album. Obviously, Anthony Fantano, I believe, gave it a 10. It was kind of a big deal. For good reason. This album is like getting a hug. It is so warm and so comforting. Porter is an amazing producer. He also does a lot of vocals on this, although he has them like pitched up and down. I believe he didn't want to use his real voice. No judgment. He did an amazing job. I also believe that this is maybe the most apt album cover ever used on an album, because it is so it embodies the album so perfectly. Listening to this album feels like doing what's on the cover, laying in a field of wildflowers and just kind of letting it envelop you. It is so nice. Definitely a comfort album for me. Probably the comfort album for me, honestly. It's so beautifully produced. It's so flowery. It's so warm. It's so inviting. Maybe a hot take, I don't know. My favorite thing Porter Robinson has ever done, by far. And I love a lot of his older stuff as well. All right, number 40. Bonito Generation by Kiro Bonito. This, again, this is not an album that people don't know about. This is a very well-respected album. Obviously, Sarah Bonito, has been around for a while. I love, recently she's kind of moved into like DJ sets, doing some random vocals, popping up in surprise places on, Flux Pavilion albums or whatever, which I love. She's always kind of been ingrained in the electronic music scene as well. But this album specifically, this is another one where I hate to say that it's camp, because I don't want people to think that that means that it's not actually good. It is actually good. It's amazing. It's fun. It's campy. It's catchy. The production is very like upbeat and creative. Obviously, they're known for being creative with production. Sarah's vocals are amazing. Every song is just fun and beautiful. Some of them are a little sad, honestly, but in a very like happy way. Yeah, man, it's just so enjoyable to listen to. That's it. It's just fun to listen to. Which ultimately, I mean, like, what else do you need? I don't know. All right. Number 39. This might be one of the hotter takes, because I know that fans of this band have lots of opinions. I've only been a fan of them for, a few years, but number 39, Instant Gratification by Dance Gavin Dance. Obviously, there's been so much drama with, they've had 75 billion lineup changes over the past, 15 years or whatever. This album, I really feel like came out in the peak, in one of my favorite lineups of theirs, which was, I believe, obviously Will Swan was still there. He was in most of, if not all of the albums, I believe. John Mess, Killian. I don't even know who else. They've had so many lineup changes, but, or I'm sorry, not Killian, Tillian. Man, it's another one that's just fun to listen to. A lot of like very experimental, like very almost goofy sounding choices that work really well and just make it an enjoyable album. Obviously, Death of a Strawberry is a great song, one of their biggest ever. For a reason, it's great. But Eagles versus Crows, there's so many good ones on there. Oh, it's just fun to listen to. And they've always had really cool album covers. The robots and everything. So that's just a fun one. One of my favorite of theirs, honestly. Which maybe that'll be a separate video, but I don't know if people want that because my opinions on them might be kind of unpopular. All right, number 38, The Impossible Kid by Aesop Rock. Obviously, Aesop Rock is kind of known for being underrated, which I kind of feel bad because that's, a tough place to get pigeonholed into, but he is that good and that unknown that it kind of makes sense that that's why he's known for that. This album in particular, beautiful storytelling. I mean, God, he's just so good at writing. The beats are all really, really, fun, catchy, a lot of layers to them. Kirby is one of my favorites on there. Man, it's really hard. There's so many good ones. But this album, actually makes me kind of sad. A friend of mine who passed away in the 10th grade actually introduced me to it, and met him actually at a concert, which was pretty cool. And so, every time I listen to it, I'm kind of reminded of him. And it's just such a beautiful concept. The whole aesthetic he chose for the album, it's so well executed. Yeah, I won't go on too long about that one. It's very underrated. Check it out, The Impossible Kid. All right, number 37, Melodrama by Lorde. Obviously, Lorde, one of the greatest pop songwriters, of the last 20 years. There's a couple albums of hers on here. 2, maybe 3. I think 2. Although Solar Power, I've loved it since it came out. I've been a Solar Power defender since day one. Anyone who doesn't like that album, I have nothing to say to you. But anyway, Melodrama by Lorde, obviously one of her more poignant albums. Not to say that all of her albums aren't poignant, but a lot of darker, more emotional themes. Obviously, Liability is a huge one. Supercut is a huge one. Green Light, Forget About It, one of the greatest pop songs ever made. Boy, she is talented. Yeah, there's not much I can say about this album that has been said already. People know it. People love it. It's acclaimed for a reason. I'll leave it at that. Number 36, The Beautiful Letdown by Switchfoot. This is another huge nostalgia pick for me. I heard this album a lot when I was a kid, riding in the car with my dad. We would listen to it a lot. I don't know what people's perception of Switchfoot is generally, but, I've always really liked them, because as Christian artists, walking that line between making Christian music and making, actual music is so tough. And they, really found their niche, and I believe they do a great job of it. That album, they have a lot of albums I really like, but The Beautiful Letdown in particular obviously is one of their biggest for a reason. It's just so solid top to bottom. Meant to Live, huge influence on me. I remember driving around in the car as a kid and hearing that riff at the beginning. If you're not familiar, it goes, and they have it, I don't know what the term is, but you'd hear one coming out of the left speaker and then at the right speaker, and so you could hear it bouncing back and forth in the car. That's kind of just a core memory for me. Just really solid album, top to bottom, very, catchy choruses, good songwriting, great guitar work from, not John Foreman, that's the singer, I believe. His brother is one of the guitarists, if I'm not mistaken. Really great work on that. All right, number 35, Chromatica, Lady Gaga. There's going to be a lot of Gaga on this list. I don't believe that there is a better pop star, pop singer, dancer, songwriter, whatever. I believe she's the best of all time. Chromatica, kind of, I feel, obviously she has a huge fan base. It's not like it flew under the radar, but I feel like it didn't get the flowers that it deserves. Huge release for me. Rain on Me, obviously, with Ariana Grande. Amazing. Sign from Above with Elton John, amazing. Sour Candy with Blackpink, amazing. All the features on there, great. I wasn't as big into the remix album, which that's okay. Remix albums are either hit or miss, but it did have some good ones. The remix with Shy Girl was amazing, but that album came out kind of in a weird time for pop music. Honestly, there was like it kind of seemed like a lull, and maybe that's just me not being tapped in, whatever. But I feel like it really, saved the year when it came out. Because the only other thing everyone was talking about was Donda, which has not aged well for a multitude of reasons. But yeah, Chromatica, amazing, vocals, amazing theme. The cover art is so cool. All the features delivered, great production from so many of her regular producers that always know what to do. All right, number 34, Happier Than Ever, Billie Eilish. This was the album that really made me like a Billie Eilish fan, I would say. Up until then, I actually had heard way back when, and I don't want to sound like that guy, but I had heard the Troy Boy remix of My Boy years and years and years ago, and I liked that song, and then I didn't listen to anything else of hers until Happier Than Ever. I tuned out for Where Do We All Go, or Where Do We Go When We All Fall Asleep. Wasn't really that big into that one, and I didn't really tap into the album that My Boy was on. I can't remember the name of it right now until later on. Although I do love that one. That's actually kind of one of my favorite ones of hers. Don't tell anybody. But Happier Than Ever, man, what a powerful album. She does so many new, fresh things on this album that, I don't think anyone was really expecting her to do. And, it's not like this hasn't been discussed before, so I'm sure people know at this point. But, yeah, her vocals are amazing. All the production choices really, really fit the bill. And I actually saw her in concert for the Happier Than Ever tour, which is pretty incredible. Definitely a core memory for that album's era for me. All right, number 33, Wildlife by La Dispute. This is one of the most potent albums I can think of. Obviously, La Dispute is known for like a loud, in-your-face production with very heartbreaking, often lyrics. This one in particular, it's all these stories. Every song is based on these stories of human despair and recovery, and really what it means to ultimately be alive, to experience suffering and learn how to continue on. I remember the first time I ever heard King Park. I'm sure every La Dispute fan does. It's such a formative moment in becoming a fan of theirs. Edward Benz obviously is another huge one. There's so many good songs on there. There's really not a bad song on the whole album, like most of these albums I've on this list, in my opinion. But man, yeah, it's just I can be outside in 90-degree weather, running, sweating, whatever, and if a song from this album comes on, it will give me full body chills, no matter what. I could be in a sauna and get chills. I forget his last name, but Jordan, the singer for the band, he has such incredible vocal control. It blows my mind the way he, can deliver some of these lines. It's just breathtaking. All right, number 32, Vessel by 21 Pilots. There's going to be a couple 21 Pilots albums on here. I love 21 Pilots, unashamed to say so. Vessel was one of my first, one of the times I first became aware of the band. Obviously, they are from Ohio, like me, which is cool. And I have seen them in concert, which is awesome, although I unfortunately saw them in concert for Scaled and Icy, which is an album of theirs that I do not enjoy. But Vessel, amazing. So many classics on there. Ode to Sleep. Excuse me. So many good ones on there. It's, really the idea of, the aesthetic, I should say, of them using their grandparents for the cover and kind of touching on all these subjects of mortality and, again, just really kind of covering a lot of the bases as far as kind of what it means to experience, a lot of these negative emotions and learn how to still, walk away from that. That's kind of a place that they've always written from in a lot of their albums, but it's also kind of a nostalgia pick. I will admit that. Blurryface was actually the first time I ever encountered them, and I remember listening to Blurryface and Vessel a lot on the swim team, in the locker room after practice and stuff like that. Big nostalgia pick. All right, number 31. People may not like this one because it's kind of goofy, but huge nostalgia pick for me. Hands All Over by Maroon 5. If there is a peak 2010s pop album, to me, this is it. Every song is catchy. Obviously, Moves Like Jagger is one of the hugest pop songs of the 2010s. Not one of the hugest, in the top 5 sense, but probably I would say it's definitely in the top 50 biggest songs of the 2010s. Who knows? I could be wrong, but obviously insanely catchy, just like every song on here. Minus there's the one with Lady Antebellum that's kind of more like a ballad, so not really meant to be catchy. Still good, but man, every song just takes me back to riding around in the car. Summer, just listening to this CD. Man, it's just fun. It's just catchy. It's fun, and it was before Maroon 5 became a total joke. All right, number 30. Reading, Writing, and Arithmetic by the Sundays. This is one of my favorite. I guess it'd be Dream Pop. I don't know. This is one of my favorite Dream Pop albums. I'll call it that without really, knowing for sure if that's what it is. But I love the Sundays. Blind is also a really great album, and that one almost made the list. But Reading, Writing, and Arithmetic is so good. It's really hard to pick a favorite. Not the only one I know is obviously a huge one, and That's How the Story Ends is a huge one. Man, dreamy vocals, very I don't want to keep saying the same words over and over. It's kind of like, the album kind of feels like being happy on a gray day. That's maybe the best way I could describe it, Obviously, great instrumentation. I might be wrong. I believe that the Sundays is a brother and sister. I don't know. I could be wrong about that. But, beautiful top to bottom. Really would be impossible to pick a favorite. Love them badly. All right, number 29. Let's Cheers to This by Sleeping with Sirens. Huge album for me in my teenage years. Obviously, If You Can't Hang, one of their biggest songs ever. Trophy Fathers, Trophy Son, one of the biggest songs ever of theirs. Fire, super underrated one on there. I love that song, and especially the way Trophy Father transitions into Fire, just impeccable. They did such a good job. No bad songs on that one. Really, kind of another genre-defining album for pop punk and the whole 2010s kind of scene era. Kellen, obviously one of the greatest vocalists, in my opinion, ever. I don't know if I've ever heard him deliver a bad vocal performance. Actually, I first was introduced to Sleeping with Sirens, the song Alone with MGK, which was off their album Feel. So, I was a little behind with, tapping into their music, but yeah, one of the best discoveries I ever inadvertently made, and one of their best albums ever. Let's Cheers to This. I mean, it's just perfect. You can't ask for anything better. All right, number 28, Hybrid Theory, Linkin Park. Obviously, 10 million people know this album. I'm not the first person to talk about this. R.I.P. Chester, Mike Shinoda's a genius. This is all, well-documented territory. I'm not going to say anything new, but perfect, top to bottom. I mean, it's all bangers. What more could you want? All right, number 27, Art Angels, Grimes. Unfortunately, Grimes passed away a few years ago. makes me sad to think about because she used to be an amazing artist. But this album, flawless. I mean, is this electropop? Is this dream pop? I don't know. I'm so bad at the genres, but man, listening to Reality or listening to Butterfly or World Princess or obviously Kill V Mame is huge on that one. Every song, it's transportive. You listen to it, it's no matter where I'm at, if I'm like driving in the car or if I'm just at home and I'm throw this on, it immediately is like being snapped away to a different dimension. It's just so beautifully produced. Obviously, she used to really have this reputation as being an incredible producer as well as vocalist. People's perception of her has been warped kind of recently, unfortunately, due to, a lot of factors. But this album, to me, is always, always, always going to have a very special place as one of the greatest electropop albums ever made. She really did that thing. She did it. R.I.P. Old Grimes, we miss you. Please come back. All right, number 26, Capri Songs by FKA Twigs. This was actually my introduction to Twigs, and this might be kind of a hot take because I know a lot of her fans really, not to say look down, but really prefer her older stuff and kind of looked a little bit down, it seems, on a lot of her newer stuff that's a little bit more accessible, although I love a lot of the newer stuff. You Sexually just came out this year. It was amazing. Capri Songs 2 or 3 years ago. I can't remember, but it was actually my introduction to FKA Twigs. I love it. Top to bottom, it's one of the most fun, kind of bouncy, just, I don't know what the word would be. It's nice. It's fun to listen to, enjoyable production, great vocals, great features. Obviously, Poppy Bones, Shy Girl, amazing. There's so many good ones on there. Tears in the Club with The Weeknd, a huge one. It's really hard to pick a favorite. It's a really great, fun mixtape that really showcases a lot of different, production styles. There's some interludes sprinkled in there that are kind of just add to this fun theme. Love Her Bad. That album's amazing. All right, number 25, Van Halen by Van Halen. They're self-titled. This is a huge nostalgia one for me. When I was talking about riding around in the car with my dad listening to Switchfoot, when we weren't doing that, this is what we were listening to. Van Halen self-titled. Oh my goodness. I mean, when I think of 80s rock albums, I really can't think of a better one. I mean, Run With the Devil, Eruption, Little Dreamer was huge, On Fire, huge. Man, I used to listen to all these songs on the way to basketball games and stuff as a kid, and it would just get me pumped up. It's just, man, you can't ask for more when it comes to 80s rock. I mean, obviously, I can't remember his name. David Lee Roth, amazing vocalist, did his job on this thing. Eddie Van Halen, R.I.P., one of the greatest guitarists, ever to live ever. One of the greatest guys to ever touch the strings. And it showcased. You can go on YouTube and see, if you look up Eruption, he performed it 5,000 times and did it different every single time because he was essentially just freestyling on half of them. I always wondered how they picked the one that ended up on the album. But also there's a great story about how he showed up to the studio to do guitar for Michael Jackson's Beat It. Obviously one of the most iconic guitar samples ever used kind of in pop. And he infamously got paid with a 6-pack of beer and left. I don't know if that's true. I've heard that story a million times, but either way, Van Halen self-titled, perfect, top to bottom, Run With the Devil. I might have said that, a huge song. It's all great. It's just fun. You can bang your head to it, you can sing along, but it's still, in a weird way, kind of light and again, I hate to say it. You know what? I'm making a rule. If I say something is camp, I do not mean it in a bad way. I love camp. This album is almost like retrospective camp. It's camp now. I'm sure it wasn't then, but it's really fun looking back on it. All right. Number 24. I don't want to mispronounce this. I think it's just Bunka, Bunkka, by Paul Oakenfold. Paul Oakenfold, one of the greatest DJs of all time. Huge in the trance scene, there's always been some debate between him and Tiesto and Armin van Buuren. They all kind of have claimed this like Godfather of trance title at one time or another, and they've all earned it. Some of them more than others. I'm not going to say any names, but Paul Oakenfold, amazing. This album was actually one of the first trance albums that I encountered, and it really made me fall in love with the genre. A lot of really great sampling, obviously beautiful production, a lot of really great features. Ice Cube, surprisingly, feature on here that you wouldn't have expected just going into it thinking like, oh, this is a trance album. But, that is just kind of a mark of Oakenfold's, really ingenuity. I mean, he had so many. There's a sample where a guy's talking about Richard Nixon, and there's, obviously all these great songs with more, what would the word be? Voices you'd expect to hear more on a trance record. But, yeah, beautiful. Really turned me on to trance, and it's just so flawless. Southern Sun is amazing. One of my favorites of all time. I love that song. It's so beautiful. Yeah, he's a legend. All right, number 23, Making Movies, Dire Straits. This is, to me, sorry, I didn't mean to cough in the mic. Say what you will about Mark Knopfler. Dire Straits really only has hits. I mean, you look at every single one of their albums, they're pretty undeniable. To me, Making Movies is my favorite one of theirs because it's so short, it's so sweet. It's all bangers. Espresso Love, obviously. Making Movies, huge. Or, I'm sorry. Espresso Love, Romeo and Juliet, Tunnel Love. That's what I meant to say. I'm sorry. They're all bangers, and real short, real sweet. To me, you can't ask for more than that when it comes to like classic rock, in that sense. All right, number 22, The Human Condition by John Bellion. John Bellion, I know, is kind of polarizing. I really like him personally. I did see him live in concert for the Glory Sound Prep Tour, which was really cool. He's an amazingly talented stage presence. He sounds exactly like he does on the studio recordings, which is always impressive. And he puts on quite a show, so that was very cool. And Glory Sound Prep is also on this list later on. But starting with The Human Condition, obviously a lot of people's first awareness of John Bellion was because of All Time Low and how huge that song was. But I really, it's one of my least favorite ones on the album. It's still a good song, but, Morning in America, he has so many, fashion, obviously, he has so many, like, beautifully written songs. They kind of, got overwhelmed by the commercial success of All Time Low, which I don't want to badmouth it too much because I do love the song and I love the album, but it's, there's not much there, when you get past the surface. It's one of his more, like, shallow songs. But not to badmouth it, I still enjoy it. The whole album is great. Just beautiful writing, and he's such an incredible talent. Yeah, super underrated, I believe. All right, number 21, Back to Black, Amy Winehouse. Obviously one of the most important albums ever made. R.I.P. Amy Winehouse. I hope that I forget his name, Blake Fielder, whatever it was. I watched the documentary. The rat that she was dating. I hope he ends up having a heart attack. R.I.P. Amy. This album is incredible. Flawless, top to bottom. She's one of the most talented vocalists ever. She knew what she was doing with this production. It's all beautiful. Even the remix album, there's the remix with Ghostface Killah, stuff that, you maybe wouldn't expect at first, but it works so well. The whole aesthetic, everything about it, perfect. 10, 10, 10. All right, number 20, Pure Heroine by Lorde. I told you there's more Lorde on here. I believe that's the only other one. Pure Heroine, amazing. Obviously, a lot of people's first introduction to Lorde. It was mine as well. Obviously, Royals was a smash when it first came out, for good reason. It's a wonderful song. I'm still not tired of it personally. I know a lot of people did get tired of it. I love it. I love that album top to bottom. Obviously, Ribs is huge. White Teeth Teens, 400 Lux, Tennis Court. My God, there's so many good songs on there. It's kind of another, like, very important. I'm going to keep saying quintessential. It's one of the quintessential alternative pop albums of the 2010s. for a reason. And it's perfect. All right, number 19, Glorious Sound Prep, John Bellion. All the writing aspects of the human condition that I loved are amplified 10,000 times on Glorious Sound Prep. He maintains his same high level of talent with, rapping, producing, singing, but his writing improved so much between those two albums. I mean, not to say that Human Condition writing is bad, but the writing on Glorious Sound Prep is so beautiful. He builds this world, and between songs where he's talking about his mother's struggle with Alzheimer's or dementia, I can't remember which one. He's got songs dedicated to his wife, songs about adjusting to fame. It's so poignantly written, and it's really hard to walk that line, I feel, between writing poignantly and also making catchy songs, but he does it, and he does it amazingly. And there's not a bad song on there. The production is so cool, especially Adult Swim. It's kind of got this, they're doing the thing of like flipping between channels and the beat switches. It's very cool. All right, number 18. I'm sorry, American Beauty, American Psycho by Fall Out Boy. This might be a hot take, and this is a huge nostalgia pick for me. But boy, when this album came out, I got this on a CD for Christmas, and I listened to it 10 billion times. Actually, when the movie Big Hero 6 came out, I saw it in theaters, and then I went home and I bought the song Immortals from that, because they use it in that movie. I bought the song on a sketchy Russian website for 2 cents, and then I played it 10,000 times, and then that Christmas is when I got the CD of the album, and obviously wore that thing out. Yeah, man, every song is catchy, every song is loud. A lot of people have mixed opinions about Fall Out Boy, and I do too. A lot of people, I like Fall Out Boy's older stuff. I don't know if anyone says that they like Fall Out Boy's newer stuff, which, whatever, I get it. But this album, man, it was just such a moment. I still remember, going into Hot Topic at the mall, and you'd see the T-shirt with that album cover, and they'd be playing the music video for Centuries or whatever. And there was they did a different version of Centuries with, I believe, Demi Lovato. I could be wrong about that. I remember there being another version that was, a cool take on it. Man, yeah, just the guitar, the drums, the vocals, everything about it really contributes to this noisy, fun, catchy album that I think really does stand the test of time in their catalog. And again, that might be a hot take, and who am I to tell other people anything? But all right, number 17, Misadventures, Pierce the Veil. I love Pierce the Veil, even more than Sleeping with Sirens. They are one of my favorite bands of all time. I don't believe they've ever put out a bad album. Misadventures, not my favorite of theirs, but it's close. It's really close. I love that album. I mean, top to bottom, it's just Circles, amazing. Floral and Fading, I don't know why I'm blanking, but every song is a perfect vocal showcase from Vic. Perfect instrumentation. I apologize. Every song catchy. Every song, as usual, their writing is beautiful. It's evocative. It's emotional, but it's still walking that line of being you can bang your head to this, and then you can the lyrics can bounce around in your head for a while after that. They are just so talented. Yeah, and this was another one that, obviously, Collide with the Sky was really the biggest one of theirs in many aspects. Besides the fact that King for a Day is their biggest song ever, that album was one of their biggest ever. But I feel like this album kind of flew under the radar as a result of that. But it's, in my opinion, it's almost as good. It's almost as good. It's really, really solid. There's no skips. It's just one of those ones that you can just throw on. You go take a shower, you go in the car, whatever. You just throw it on and just sing your lungs out to it. And it never gets old. And it's I think it's about 40 minutes, right in that sweet spot. Yeah, can't complain. All right, number 16, Lust for Life. Now, this one is I will say one of Lana Del Rey's more polarizing albums, because she really took a different approach and went sort of in that trip pop R&B blend sound, and she had a lot of features that people weren't really expecting, and some people weren't on board with it first. A couple A$AP Rocky features. There's Playboy Carti does like some ad libs on there. Obviously, and then there's some more expected ones. Stevie Nicks. I forget his name, but I believe Yoko Ono's and John Legend's son, Sean Ono. I hope I'm getting that right. Every song on here, minus one. I'm not going to say there's one song on here that I absolutely hate. And I kind of, for my own, mental canon, I don't think of it as part of the album. But that being said, every other song on here, flawless, very, riding around on a warm, let's say, it feels kind of like May, riding around on a warm day in May, it's 76 degrees outside, sunny, a little bit of a breeze, got the windows down. It's very much like a summer, a whole album of summer anthems. And obviously Lana, as usual, amazing vocal performance. All the features work really well. Very solid closer. It's just such a great album top to bottom. And such an iconic cover of her with the daisies in her hair. I mean, all of her covers are iconic, obviously. All right. Number 15. This is one of the, potentially one of the hotter takes on this list. Death of a Bachelor by Panic at the Disco. This is a huge nostalgia pick for me. I know some people don't take this album very seriously because, Emperor's New Clothes did numbers, and some people are like, that's kind of corny. I love this album top to bottom. Every song is catchy. I specifically really love, more than anything else, LA Devotee is amazing. Golden Days is one of my favorite songs. Every chorus on this album is so catchy. And this was back before Brendan Urie's catastrophic fall off with his final two albums. Old Panic at the Disco. They knew what they were doing. Obviously, this was after, I forget his name, the other guy left, and obviously this was also before Brendan started trying to write his own songs. But yeah, that album, the aesthetic, the cover, just the whole vibe of it, all the, it kind of touches on that, old. It's kind of like old Hollywood a little bit, in a party way. I don't know. There's a lot of things about it that I really love. I kind of dislike that Emperor's New Clothes is one of the biggest singles from it, because I actually feel that vocally it's one of the least interesting showcases on the album. I still love the song. It's very catchy. Obviously, I get why it was popular, but LA Devotee, Golden Days, obviously the title track was also huge, which I get. But every song on there is a really great vocal performance that I feel is more interesting than Emperor's New Clothes, which is kind of like it's still catchy. I get it. That's all I'll say about that. All right. Number 14, Come Over When You're Sober, Part 1 by Lil Peep. This one might be a weird pick to some people. I love Lil Peep. I have a Lil Peep tattoo. I was very sad when he died. This album, I feel like, is out of all the SoundCloud rap era, I feel like this is one of the most time-tested, what's the word I'm looking for? It has stood the test of time better than any other album, I believe, to come out of the SoundCloud era. And it's just such a great example of Lil Peep's writing, his ability to switch between this kind of emotional singing and also rapping, and blending both of them. It was all the music videos is a great example of his very unique style that he kind of pioneered. It really makes me a little sad to think about it, but every song on it's a banger. Obviously, Awful Things is one of the best songs ever written. Him and Little Tracy, great combo. They also worked together on Witchblades on a different album, but yeah, they were great together. Man, he was just so good. This album was just such a great, showcase of his abilities that I feel like if you really had to sum of his career into, one album, I feel like this is kind of like peak Lil Peep. which, we'll never really know what peak Little Peep could be because he died far too soon. R.I.P. All right, number 13, Emotion, Carly Rae Jepsen. Maybe, I hate to say it as a Gaga stan, but maybe the best pop album of all time. I mean, I'm going to bust out the Q word, maybe the most quintessentially pop album ever made. Flawless, top to bottom. I mean, she is such a great vocalist, and the production is so 2010s. Obviously, Run Away With Me, perfect. One of the greatest pop songs ever written, ever produced, ever recorded. An anthem. Y2K had a lot of production on this. I could be wrong about that. But every song, catchy, great vocal performance, great production. You really, out of all the things on this list, I mean, you can't get better as far as pop goes than Emotion. And actually, the 15th anniversary was just a couple weeks ago, and she put out the deluxe for that. Check that out. It was very good. All right, number 12, Flow State by Tash Sultana. Okay, I believe that this is one of the most underrated albums of all time. Tash Sultana, incredibly talented singer, guitarist, producer. I can't remember. I hope I don't use the wrong pronouns. They. I can't remember. I'll just say they, just in case. They are so. If you watch videos from studio sessions, drums, guitars, singing, producing, keyboards, everything. Doing piece by piece and kind of building the song up little by little until it's just surrounds you, and it's so many layers to it. One of the greatest guitar performances in recent years. Great vocals. A lot of them are catchy, a lot of them are sad, a lot of them are very warm and comforting. It's really a great blend. Beautiful songwriting. Man, it's just it kind of hits that blend of that feels right for driving on a highway at 7 p.m. There's no cars around you. It's 65 degrees outside. You got the windows down. Golden hour. It's just so beautiful. I don't want to butcher the song name. I can't remember the one I'm trying to think of, but Harvest Moon. Just beautiful. It blows me away every time I listen to it. Yeah, check it out. One of the most underrated albums, I think, of all time. All right, number 11, Preacher's Daughter by Ethel Cain. My God, I remember discovering this album. I mean, as someone who grew up, in the church and in the Midwest as well, there's so many themes on this album that really just struck me. And, people have done hour-long video essays on this album. There's nothing I can contribute to this that people haven't said already, that people haven't discussed in greater detail already. So I won't even try. She's amazing. Amazing vocals. She's a brilliant songwriter. The production is unbelievable. In some parts it's sad, in some parts it's happy, in some parts it's a little scary. It's nostalgic. It really makes you feel like you're in a small town in the Midwest, experiencing these things. And obviously, as I won't even get into the story and the lore of the album. People have broken that down before. I don't even know the full thing. I've learned it before. There's so much to it. It's an entire universe that she built with this album, and obviously continued with Willoughby Tucker, which was a great album as well. There's not much I can say about it. I mean, it's a perfect album. And again, when I was talking about, being in the sauna and getting chills, I could be standing on the edge of a volcano, and that guitar solo from House in Nebraska will come on, and I will get full body chills for 2.5 minutes. It's so good. All right, I won't talk too much about that one. Number 10, Ultraviolence, Lana Del Rey. This was what I was talking about when I was saying it's hard to really pick a quintessential Lana Del Rey album, because every album feels like one. This is what I think of, honestly, because obviously Born to Die, I believe, is on the list as well. Ultraviolence, and we also had Honeymoon and Lust for Life. She has so many good albums. it's really impossible to define any of her albums as like the quintessential Lana album because all of them are so different but so perfect. Ultraviolence, man, it is so beautifully like dark. Obviously she caught flack at some point for some of the themes on the album, which was silly in my opinion, but because she's an artist, that's what artists do. Her vocal performances on this album are unreal. When I think of, even on some of the bonus tracks, when I think of Florida Kilos, which is kind of silly, I will say, though, Guns N' Roses is one of my least favorite songs that she's ever made. Every time I'm listening to the deluxe, I got that one hidden on Spotify. I do not like that song, but when I think of The Other Woman, Florida Kilos, other songs in the deluxe even, or any of the songs on the regular album, I mean, her vocals are unreal. She is so talented. And, again, I feel like people have broken down a lot of the themes of her albums, better than I could ever hope to. So I'll just leave it at this. I love that album. Brooklyn Baby, I believe, is perfect. One of the greatest songs ever written. And also, if you haven't heard it, check out Claro did a cover of it for Spotify singles, and it's great. Check that out as well. All right, number 9, Blurry Face, 21 Pilots. Like I mentioned, this was my actual introduction to 21 Pilots. I have so many memories of singing along with this in the locker room after swim practice, driving around when I first got my car, my license at 16, listening to this. Man, it's so... Obviously, Ride was really popular. Blurry Face was really popular, the song. Obviously, there's a lot of, really big... It was a big album for them commercially. It was one of their bigger breakthroughs, because I believe they didn't really have... I don't think they had any songs chart before this album came out. I could be wrong about that. But, man, the opening with Heavy Dirty Soul, the transition into all those songs in the middle that were really that's where a lot of the meat was that did well commercially, and then closing with ballads. It's such a great concept, and the whole theme and all the music videos, I feel like they really nailed it. I'm a big fan of Josh as a drummer and Tyler as a singer / rapper. I was fortunate to see them in concert. They put on a great show, and this album I feel like is really a beautiful, beautiful showcase of their abilities. And it's catchy. It's fun. It's camp. I'm not saying it's objectively a great album. I know a lot of people don't like 21 Pilots. That's okay. I love them. I'll leave it at that. All right, number 9, The Fame Monster Deluxe. I'm counting the deluxe because I didn't want to use 2 spaces on the list for The Fame and The Fame Monster. Gaga, obviously, like I talked about, amazing. She's one of the greatest ever. Maybe the greatest ever, in my opinion. This album, where would pop music be without The Fame Monster? I mean, when you look at the track list, you know what? I'm actually going to pull up the track list real quick. Because when you look at the track list for this album, I cannot actually think of a stronger pop track list for a deluxe album. And, for pop music in general, it may be the single most formative album. I mean, it changed everything. All right, let's see. Obviously, Bad Romance, like the biggest pop song of all time, one of the best pop songs of all time. Alejandro, amazing. Monster, amazing. Speechless, amazing. Dance in the Dark, Telephone with Beyonce. It's all hits. And then, disc 2 being the Fame, which, some people might say it's a cop-out to put to use the deluxe to lump them both into one spot on the list. I don't care. It's perfect. Disc 2, Just Dance, huge. Paparazzi, huge. Love Game, Poker Face. I mean, everything about it transformed pop music. The pop music scene would not be the same without that album. Gaga's the greatest, and I'll stand by that until I die. All right, number 7, Born to Die, Lana Del Rey. Talk about another very influential genre-defining album. This one was influential for different reasons, obviously. You can listen to a lot of alternative pop albums from the last 10 years and hear this album's influence. clearly. I mean, there's a reason why Lana has stuck around for as long as she has, actually. Oops, wrong side. Right there. My sister painted that for me. That is Lana from the Young and Beautiful music video. Very cool. Sorry, it's not very good quality, like I said, because of the camera, but trust me, it's beautiful. She did an amazing job. All right. Anyway, back to Born to Die. You can listen to albums from the last 10 years and hear this album. This album, in the way that the Fame Monster permanently changed pop music, Born to Die changed alternative pop. Obviously, the remix of Summertime Sadness, went quadruple platinum or whatever, and was impossible to escape, which I hate because it's such a poor representation of the album. I mean, even Summertime Sadness, did numbers, obviously, the regular version, and that's a great song as well. But top to bottom, I will say this, maybe my hottest take yet is the song Video Games. I hate that song so much. I don't know why. I've never been able to get into it. I do not enjoy it. I have it hidden on Spotify on the album. It's not on any of my playlists. I'm sorry if you like that song. I know that a lot of people, became aware of Lana through that song, and it was, a big moment on YouTube when that music video came out, and that music video is iconic. I get it. If you like it, that's cool. Not, do whatever you want. I don't like that song personally, but it doesn't even matter. The rest of the album is so perfect that I don't let that affect how I think about the album. All right, number 6. Wrong side again. There we go. When the Pawn, Fiona Apple. I don't know the full title. I could have written it down. I didn't. You can look it up. It's long. When the Pawn. Obviously, Fiona Apple, one of the greatest songwriters of the last 100 years. She is so talented. I mean, vocally, writing-wise, production-wise, everything she does is just perfect. I don't believe she's ever put out a bad album. And actually, if I tried to rank her albums, I might not be able to. Although I will tell you, this would be number 1. Oh gosh, that would be number 1. When the Pawn. I love that album top to bottom. When I think about the first time I heard that album, hearing Paper Bag, it's really hard to explain the feeling, but because so much of the album it feels like venting, but it's also like very beautiful, very poignant. She walks such a fine line, and there's aspects of listening to the album that I could never possibly understand. And I can appreciate that. There's parts of that experience that I will never get to experience, and that's okay. But she's incredibly talented. It's one of the best albums of all time. And she's never had a bad album. Honestly, any of her albums could go on this list. I also really love Extraordinary Machine. I know that some people don't like that one as much, actually, but I love that album. And Tidal, obviously, is huge, amazing. She's just so good. All right, we are now on the top 5, my top 5 albums of all time. And with that, I would quickly like to mention an honorable mention, which is Deeper Well by Casey Musgraves. That did not make the list, but it almost did. I love that album so much. I think it's perfect top to bottom. Casey's an amazing singer and songwriter. And that album, all the themes of nature, is just so incredibly beautifully done. All right, anyway, on to the top 5. Number 5, I talked about it briefly before, Collide with the Sky, Pierce the Veil. Such an iconic moment for pop punk. Obviously, King for a Day, huge, that's fine, but when you look at the track list, and I'm actually going to pull it up here real quick, I get why that song is, what most people know when they think about that album. That's the first thing they think of. But that entire album, every single song, first starting off with, and because this is the top 5, I'm going to go in a little more detail here, so stick with me. But starting off with the opener, Made These Noises, the way it transitions into Hell Above, perfect. The intro to Match in the Water, perfect. Obviously, King for a Day, everyone knows. Here's what I'm going to say, and this might be a hot take. My favorite song on that album is not Tangled in the Great Escape. It's not Hell Above. It's not A Match in the Water. It's not King for a Day. It's not any of the ones that I think people typically think of. I love Bulls in the Bronx. I know that's also a very popular one, so I'm not saying like, oh, I'm different. I love that song. I remember seeing an interview where Vic was talking about how he tried to work some nods to his I don't want to get it wrong, but his Hispanic, I think, heritage into a lot of the songs, and that's maybe one of the more on the nose examples of that. The breakdown in the middle, but man, every song catchy, beautifully written, great instrumentation. Every song is an anthem. And the closer, Hold On Till May. I don't remember the lady's name, Lindsay something. Just heart-wrenching, beautiful. You really can't close an album a better way than that, in my opinion. Yeah, man, it's just so powerful, and it just hits you right in the sternum every time. All right, number 4. Another potentially hot take. Art Pop by Lady Gaga. I think that Art Pop is Gaga's best album. Applause was actually how I first found out about her. I was late to the game, I remember hearing that on the radio, and that, obviously set off a chain of events leading to now. That album changed music for me in a lot of ways. I believe everything about that album pushed boundaries exactly the way it needed to for when it came out. Early 2000s, I believe it was 2015, 2014, I can't remember, but the cover, the themes, the songwriting, the production, obviously she's talked a million times about the things she was dealing with, that she kind of used all the electronic production and a lot of the themes as like a means to achieve catharsis for a lot of it. And, people have written, college, like theses on this album. So there's nothing I can contribute that hasn't been, broken down by some guy in college who's trying to get his final paper or get his final grade and leave. But this album to me is everything. I mean, it is, a celebration of pain and recovery. It is, very, it's all these themes of, freedom and, appreciating yourself, which she's done in a lot of her music. But it's also got a lot of grittier themes that, coupled with the production, man, it just was revolutionary in my opinion. I love that album. It's my favorite of hers. I'll never get tired of it. And, the aesthetics, all the music videos, obviously she always kills the music videos, but all the music videos for that album, impeccable. There's nothing else I could say about this album other than this album is everything. All right. Number 3, Until Now by Swedish House Mafia. I love Swedish House Mafia. I think that if I had to pick Don't You Worry Child by Swedish House Mafia, and this might be corny to some people, it would be my number 1 favorite song of all time across any genre, no matter what. I love that song so much. I believe that song perfectly captures the 2010s. And that it was that scene when, that moment in the 2010s music scene when EDM was really, at its biggest in the mainstream music scene. And, when you think about like Avicii, Swedish House Mafia, all these big names playing these huge festivals and crowds, and Avicii songs going #1 on the radio. It was just a big moment for EDM. I love EDM very much. I believe that Swedish House Mafia is one of the most legendary like powerhouse supergroups of the EDM scene. Obviously, three very talented DJs individually, but put together, I mean, every song on that on until now. Besides "Don't You Worry, Child," which is obviously an anthem in and of itself, Miami to Ibiza, it's so 2000s. Lights is a banger. Hand and Dough with Knife Party. There's so many good songs, and it's very camp, very 2000s. But they're all bangers. That's the thing. They're all bangers. They're all beautifully produced. You know, you can hear it at the club, or you can, put it on when you're taking a walk. It's versatile. It's fun. It's catchy. And man, John Martin. I know he wrote that song, and like performed it before Swedish House Mafia got him to do the EDM version, but I cannot think of a better combination than John Martin's voice on the Swedish House Mafia production. That song, oh, it gives me chills every single time. All right, number 2, White Noise by Paris, Pvris. You can't actually see it, but there's a Paris poster right on the ceiling. I'm not going to try to move the camera because then I have to reposition it, but I love Paris. They're one of my favorite bands ever, and White Noise is one of my all-time favorite albums. I believe that it is top to bottom perfect, and also the anniversary was this year, and they put out a remaster that was amazing. They did a cover of one of the songs that had Courtney from Spirit Box, which is pretty cool. They had some new versions of some of the songs. It was all very nice. It's a perfect album. Lynn Gunn, I believe, is one of the most talented vocalists. I mean, she does everything. She does guitar, she does percussion, she records everything herself. Like I was talking about with Tash, you can see videos where she's building the song piece by piece. Amazing vocals. I mean, I hear her singing on some of these songs sometimes, and it's one of those ones where you just have to stop for a second and just let it wash over you. Her vocals are just incredible. The whole album is kind of like, it's almost like walking in like a Victorian graveyard, like walking through a forest, but it's also got a lot of these really high moments that, it's tough. It's so tough to describe. It's just a flawless album. Lynn did her thing on it. Brian McDonald, I don't believe he's actually part of the band anymore. He might just be touring, but he did a great job on drums. I love that album so much. I remember getting that. It was one of the first albums I ever got on vinyl, for a good reason. It's a perfect album. And I remember buying issues of Alternative Press magazine when they had interviews with them when they were still touring and everything together. And I remember cutting out the posters from the magazine and just plastering them all over my room in my childhood bedroom. Man, it's such a good album. All right, we've come to almost to the end. Number 1, my favorite album of all time. I believe it's very underrated. I believe that if you're watching this, you should probably go check it out. Via Musicom by Eric Johnson. The greatest guitar player of all time, in my opinion. And, there's other albums of his that people might think are better, might say are better. I shouldn't say might think are better. Like, it's some fact. Have your opinion. It doesn't affect me. This album, I have probably listened to, I don't want to exaggerate, but maybe between 400 and 600 times. And every single time I listen to it, I notice something new. That's not a joke. Every single time I listen to it, I discover something new about the album that I learn to love. Sometimes I've heard people in the past say comment that they wish he would just focus on guitar. Like, why are you singing? Just play the guitar, blah, blah, blah. I love when he sings. Desert Rose. I mean, obviously Cliffs of Dover is probably what I think most people know this album for, because that song is so huge, and that song is amazing, undeniably perfect. But Desert Rose, his vocals on that, I believe, complement it so well. This is another, I will say, another nostalgia pick. I remember riding around in the car again. My dad showed me this album when I was a kid, and it stuck with me ever since. It's just top to bottom, flawless guitar. I mean, everything about it. I don't know the names, I'm sorry, of the people who, worked with him on this album. But those people deserve credit as well. I'm actually going to pull it up real quick. I know a lot of people really like, I love Stevie Ray Vaughan. I love Eddie Van Halen. I know a lot of people, there's a debate about who the greatest guitarist of all time is. And, for good reason. Everyone has their opinions. There's a million different examples that you could point to for being like, oh, this is the best guitar song ever made. And you probably wouldn't be wrong either, which is the tough part. But to me, this album is the single best example you could pick to show someone the beauty and range and emotion that can be evoked with an electric guitar. Let me pull up this list real quick. So, gosh, let's see. There's no credits on here. That's okay. Shout out to those people, whoever did drums, backup guitar, bass, whatever. Shout out to those people who worked with Eric on this album. And I actually was very blessed to go with my dad to see him perform in Cincinnati, in a little tiny room. I believe it was us and maybe 50 other people sitting in this little room. And he's so good live. He's just as good live as he is studio. He's so talented. I'll never get over this album. You can throw it on no matter what you're doing. You can throw this album on and it will fit the mood. It is undeniable. It is evocative. It's catchy. It's everything you could want. And not to, go back to the runtime as a big factor, but 40 minutes. I mean, that's nice. What more could you want? I don't know. Anyways, like I said, that's just my opinion. I know these are not the best albums of all time, and like I said, honorable mention to Deeper Well, fantastic album. I hope that the poor video quality and the sound quality from my Rock Band wired microphone did not put you off of this album, this video. I have this book of lists that I have written over the years. And, there's a lot of my probably horrible opinions in here. Like I said, this is the first time I've ever made a video like this. I don't know if I'm going to do it again. I don't even know if I'll upload this one, honestly. But maybe I will do more. Anyways, I love you. Thanks for listening. Go listen to some music because that's the most important thing you can do. And be nice to people. All right, bye.